Welcome back to another edition of the Unreasonable Odds podcast, one of the last shows of 2021. We're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. This is going to be the only show for this week, same as next week, only going to be one show again, along with Julian Edlow. I'm Steve Buchanan. We're going to be talking about the NFL board as best as we can, because the board is ever changing, just like last week, probably even worse.
What do you know? We're still stuck in week 15, actually, as we record. So
that's actually very true.
We'll give out some rare Tuesday night football bets. And I have a Tuesday night football best bets article out on the DK Playbook.
So make sure to take a look at that over on the DK Playbook, DraftKings.com/playbook, where you can always get Julian's best bets articles. But let's just get right into it. Let's try to somewhat recap some of our best bets from last week. You and I both have a trash it that was very early with the Patriots, not able to cover against the Colts. And I even teased them up to 9.5, and that still couldn't do it, which was incredible.
Twitter went nuts because a lot of people teased the Patriots to 8.5. And that late Jonathan Taylor run, Twitter exploded because it lost everyone those Patriots teasers. And Belichick kicking the field goal rather than going for the late touchdown. A lot of weird numbers. The Patriots were right in that game outside of the blocked kick. Rare special teams mistake. That was a weird all-around game that a lot of people were mad about, that late Taylor touchdown run.
So when my best bet teaser is shot down on the first leg, makes for an early
get back
week
on the horse and make another teaser.
Right, of course. Yeah, of course. But that was just a brutal trash it. And that's obviously where we're going to be starting there, because I think that was actually one of the more shocking losses when it comes to teaser legs. That Patriots have been one of the best teaser pieces all year long. Joe Osborne from Oddshock was able to share with me some of the teaser records for the year. The Patriots were right at the top of the list there. And the late score by the Patriots to put them right back into cashing, but they just could not stop Jonathan Taylor one last time. Watching that run, I felt like I was watching it in slow motion because I knew all those bets were just about to get annihilated, basically.
And Jonathan Taylor also could have pulled a Todd Gurley and won the game by sliding down, but elected to score and keep the game alive.
Well, he's also vying for an MVP, so of course he's going to go and score. Sure. But, a loss by the Patriots there by 10 points to the Colts early in the week. Trash that one. That was not a good start to the week. That was brutal.
That's my trash also. I had a weird 3-1 NFL week, that being the loss. So that's my trash. So we'll move on to cash. Although I lost Justin Jefferson long reception on Monday Night Football, but I didn't give that out on this podcast. I gave that out on Twitter on Monday. So I can add my own to the list there. But moving to cash it, I had technically a 3-1-1 week with the plays I gave out on the podcast last week, but I gave out the Browns Dolphins money line parlay, but fortunately the postponement cancels the Browns leg of that parlay. So what I wound up having was just 1.5 units on Dolphins minus like 385 money line, which fortunately they came through and won. It was a little sweaty. Like it went down to the wire.
They were down 14-0 quickly against the Jets.
Right. So that got through for like a 1/4 of a unit win that I was just locked into because I gave it out early. But I told you guys on the podcast not to take that. So if you tail it on Twitter, you won a sweaty, high risk 1/4 unit on the Dolphins winning, which I do not recommend. But the two other plays that I put out did hit. Kansas City -3. What a game on Thursday night. Kelsey comes through for us in overtime. And our head-to-head play, Steve, you looked great at halftime, Titans Steelers, but the Steelers dug deep just as I knew they would. And I got a lot of Titans futures. I got some futures fading the Colts that we're probably in trouble on, but I just knew Pittsburgh was going to find a way to win that game, and they did in the end. So yeah, those two came through for me to cash it, Kansas City and Pittsburgh.
I was all over the Bengals as underdogs last week against the Broncos. Obviously, really scary hit for Teddy Bridgewater, took him out of the game.
Yep.
Probably helped the bet a little bit there. The Bengals won the game by a weird score for 15-10, but they're able to cover that 2.5 point spread easily by winning that game outright. And then I love Carson Wentz throwing a touchdown against the Patriots because they are just an interception machine. That was a sweaty one too. He didn't do it until late. I think it was the fourth quarter where he ended up throwing that interception, but that was a cash as well. But, I think kind of like last week, we're not going to have a ton of bets this week, especially with how early we're recording this show, and B, just because how fluid this NFL situation is. They've changed the COVID protocols. It's probably more unclear than ever if guys can play or not, because you got to know their vaccination status, blah, 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 blah. Too many things that I can't even bother to get into. Just let me know if they're playing on Sunday or not. That's basically how I'm running this right now. But a couple big names already on the COVID list for this week. Travis Kelce's is placed on there. Jared Goff is one that's on there as well, which was trending to be a very popular underdog play with the Lions at plus 4.5 going against the Falcons. That has since moved to 5.5 only, which, maybe I'm kind of starting to like it again. Even if Tim Boyle's case goes under center, I don't know if I'm getting there just yet, but, it's just going to be a mess leading up to Sunday. And, as you mentioned at the top of the show, we're still talking about week 15 as we're recording this as a quote unquote week 16 podcast.
Speak for yourself. People on Twitter make fun of you because you don't give out plays, and you don't. You're a coward. I'll give out a couple of plays. I'll put my neck out on the line, stick it out there.
I'm not saying I'm not going to give out plays, but I'm just saying.
You said it's harder to give out plays. Not to mention, I'm going to give out 2 Week 15 plays, Tuesday night football plays. So get in and listen to this podcast early.
But before we get to that, of course, we're going to have Odds Are with Johnny Avello. We'll talk about some of the happenings on week 15. Julian's going to ask him a bowl question because it is bowl season. So why don't we get to Odds Are with our guy, Johnny Avello.
You heard the music. If you're watching on YouTube, you see the man. Welcome into Odds Are with Johnny Avello. Johnny, happy holidays. How are you doing?
Doing well, guys, and thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so let's dive right into it. Sports, weird spot right now. Probably as bad a spot as we've been in since the pandemic got underway. So tough to navigate everything. But before we dive into any specific games, COVID's taken center stage in sports right now. And we're back to things like multiple Tuesday night football games in the NFL right now. Just overall in sports, what are some of the biggest impacts you've noticed for sports bettors with so many unknowns right now? And how has that affected the handle on things like these Tuesday night NFL games that you got to cancel void bets from earlier in the week for Sunday and Saturday games and move the dates? What does this all mean for you behind the book?
Well, the biggest impact is that games in some leagues, the NBA and NHL, are being canceled. Certainly the NHL. The NBA may try to continue to keep playing. There's really no impact on the NFL for the games because they're being played and the handle has been relatively normal. Here's the biggest issue is for the trading team. Who's in and who's out? That's the tough part.
How do you look at these games as a bookmaker in terms of setting and moving the lines? Obviously, a game like Raiders and Browns, that moved all over the place all week long. Like when this first opened, the Browns were like 5.5 point favorites before it was canceled. They were 3-point underdogs. Like you never see something like that unless something drastic happens. That's exactly what it was. But even on Monday morning, the Browns were -3. Then we got confirmation Mayfield and Keenum were out and they closed at +3. So how does the book manage risk with so many games taking so much movement literally at a second's notice?
Really difficult, Steve. I mean, you need to have the games on the board, first of all, for the customer base. But, with uncertainty in personnel, especially key personnel, it becomes very tricky and troublesome. You mentioned that Raiders-Browns game. You're right. The Browns opened 5.5 early in the week, went to Raiders 3 on the COVID news. Then it swung back to Browns 3. And then when the game was moved to Monday with a chance for Mayfield to be able to play, we're thinking Browns are going to be 3. Then the morning comes out, Mayfield and Keenum and the coaches are all out. Swings to Raiders 3. I'm saying, guys, we are just in a terrible spot here if this game falls 1, 2, or 3. Now, it did fall Raiders 2, and we didn't get hurt too bad. This is just unprecedented movement going on in the NFL like I've never seen.
Okay, well, with some of the COVID news, let's talk Tuesday night football. How's the handle on these 2 games, and what kind of movement? I know, like, we don't have a crystal ball for COVID if anything happens between recording and kickoff, but COVID aside, do you anticipate any kind of movement in either of these games? We've already had with Schefter saying that it looks like Washington will be on the 3rd string quarterback. Philly already moved, I think, from 6.5 to 8.5 before lunchtime here on the East Coast on Tuesday.
The handle's very strong, and why not? It's the NFL on Tuesday would appear a decent contest. The negative is that both games are kicking off at the same time, and also the viewing of the games is unclear. I think it's Fox, but which games, are going to be in your area? I wish they would have separated them. That certainly would have helped. Then the Rams open -4. They're currently at 6.5, and this one will touch 7, but will that hold up? And then in the Washington Football Eagle game, all over the board, as you mentioned, it actually opened 2 going back to beginning of the week, went to 11 on the COVID news. Now we're at 6.5. This one also probably going to keep escalating. You mentioned up to 8.5. I didn't see it that high yet, but maybe it is there now. But will that hold also? No number seems to be holding. We're just constantly shifting these numbers up and down the ladder.
And then looking back to the rest of week 15, what were some of the best results for the book? I have to imagine it was the Lions beating the Cardinals and the Saints beating the Buccaneers, but I'm more than happy to be wrong.
You got it, Steve. Oodles of good results.
Steve's getting good at this. He's learning.
Yes, it is. And it started off at that game with the Lions beating the Cards, but then the Packers not covering. And then to cap off a great day, the Bucs not only losing, but not scoring a single point.
Right.
Tom Brady, I forget the number. It was 250 something games in a row for Tom Brady without a shutout. And it happens at home on Sunday night against the Saints. That was a weird game. But all right, let's look at the other side. What was good for the public on DK Sportsbook in week 15 and wound up actually hurting the book?
Not a lot of negativity to speak of here.
All right. Well, you guys were due. We had a couple public weeks.
Right.
We won small. We won small on the Texas Jags, and we won small on the Panthers Bills. So, but the key is there that we won small. Okay.
Steve, would you like to ask a question?
That was the one. Oh, sorry. Did I steal your question? Is that what happened? I think I might have.
No, I just so here's a blooper for us to use. I'm odds, you're evens. I just asked question 5. 6 is even.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That means
sorry.
you.
Yeah. Okay. Samir, you're gonna have to cut that right there. Okay.
No. We're keeping that.
All right, back to it. Let's get into week 16. Games spanning over 4 days, and that's before COVID potentially moves anything around on the schedule. Thursday night football between the Titans and Niners, 2 Christmas Day games, the Sunday night slate, and a big Dolphins Saints Monday night football game for wild card hopefuls. Some of these games have already seen some movement with the COVID news on players like Jared Goff, Travis Kelce. Which of these games have moved the most already? Obviously we can't predict anything with the COVID news, but if you move that, what games do you think are going to move the most by kick?
Well, for Thursday night football, the Titans open 1. Now the 49ers are 3.5. A lot of that has to do with, the way that each team played last week. So the power rating shifted a little bit. This may even still go up another tick before settling at a number. For Saturday and Christmas Day, it appears that no bettors are confident that Mayfield clears COVID protocol or at least isn't back to normal. And maybe they don't like that side anyway, as the games jump from the Pack 6.5 up to 8.5. Arizona won that game that went the other way, opened -4 over the Colts. Now that one's Arizona -1. On the Sunday slate, the Bucks dropped from 11 down to 10.5 at the Panthers, but I just can't see that holding up, guys. That one probably goes back up. Eagles up to 10 from 8.5 over the 4-10 hopeless Giants. I say that because I'm a Giant fan. And how about those 3-11 Jets opening up a 1-point favorite, escalating to 2.5-point favorite over the Jags? That's crazy. Those are brave souls betting that game, guys. And then the Chiefs opened up and still are 9.5-point favorite over the Steelers. I anticipate that one going a little bit higher.
If the Jaguars can't win a home game against the Texans after kind of being able to rally around Urban Meyer being fired, I don't know why they would win a road game here, even against the Jets the following week. That said, I am not one of the brave people that will be getting involved in that game. I'm just giving an opinion.
Yes.
All right. I want to talk
real quick. I just want to bring up something real quick, John, if you don't mind here. So that Buccaneers game, the line against the Panthers was up during the game when the Buccaneers were playing. I think it was -14 for the Buccaneers, but those injuries were happening at a rapid rate with Godwin, with Evans, with Fournette, and that number quickly came down. Is there like a risk reward type thing when you have a game in the future up like that, and then something like the Buccaneers losing all those players? And then obviously that line changing so drastically. Is there a lot of risk involved with that?
There is, but we try to take those games down as the teams are playing. Sometimes you look and think it's up and it might be there, but it's not. It's closed at that time. So most of the time when it's up, it's an error that we made, forgot to take it down. But we don't like to have a game up when the teams are playing because of those reasons.
Sure. Cool.
Okay, so COVID news, teams playing shorthanded and forces a lot of backups into prominent roles, or just, secondary, third tier stars into, first star type of roles. So I want to talk player props here. Have you noticed any larger handles in the prop market? And we can expand this to NBA too, because I think betting player props in the NBA right now is the safest way to go, because you can put yourself on a side. And even if you put yourself on a side based on COVID news from the other side, COVID news can still hit the side you bet on and it can come back the other way. I take Sunday's Hawks Cavs game as an example. The game wound up never being played, but the Cavs were +3. Trae Young gets ruled out with COVID, goes to Cavs -2. Then the Cavs get 5 cases of COVID, comes back with the Cavs as dogs again. Then the game just gets wiped altogether. So sides are kind of ridiculous in the NBA right now, but if you bet a player prop, the worst that happens, I guess, is your guy gets ruled out and then that play voids. But you can bet a player and then some other guys on his team could be ruled out. You could get some value on the player prop. For example, Kings, no De'Aaron Fox, no Davion Mitchell in the backcourt right now. My best bet last night was Tyrese Halliburton over 14.5 points. It got there. Number one, what kind of handle are you seeing, go up on any player props? And number two, how do you feel about those being maybe safer bets than sides altogether right now?
What, Julian, I tell you what, you're exhausting me just thinking about it and listening to it.
I put a lot of thought into this, and I've determined player props are safer than sides right now.
Yeah, you might be right. The prop market and same game wagers have been robust all year. Now, with major quarterbacks, running backs out, major guards, major scorers in NBA, it actually hurts those markets if, for us overall handle, because people aren't able to play the players that they actually want to. Now, if you're referring to some value in the prop market with certain players out, that absolutely exists.
Just real quick, I want to wrap up the NFL with this question about the AFC North. This is one of the more interesting divisions in football right now. All 4 teams are alive in that division. How is the handle on the division winner there, and where is the DraftKings Sportsbook liability in this one?
You're correct, Steve. That is the only division where all 4 teams have a shot to, and no team is a cakewalk, actually, when you look at their schedules to this title. We have a little liability on the Browns and Steelers. They're +550. 11-2 on the Browns, and plus 700 on the Steelers, respectively. That's 7-1. The Bengals are the shortest odds at plus 125, and the Ravens are at plus 160.
All right, as we've done the last couple weeks, Johnny, we're going to wrap with bowl games. For these forever moving targets that have weeks and weeks of news before they're actually played. I haven't put any bowl game plays out there yet. The first one that I have is Wednesday night. I do have Army minus 3.5 against Missouri. That one has moved in my favor now, sitting at 5.5. Last I checked. Number one, what's the handle looking like on that game? And then number two, the same questions I ask you every week. What are some of the other bowl games that have moved the most over the last week or so? And are there any other that you see making some big moves over the next week?
Well, Army is now 6.5, Julian.
Oh, all right.
And
yes, pretty
good action on that particular matchup. It's all one-sided. And there's also a pretty good move on the total on that one, going under. Open 60.5. That's now down to 55.5. Some other games with movement and seeing good business. Central Florida versus Florida, Gasparilla Bowl. Gators are up from 6.5 to 7. And there are quite a few games out there where the favorite has switched. In the Fenway Bowl, SMU opened 1.5, and now Virginia's the 2-point favorite. Virginia Tech opened -3 over Maryland in the Pinstripe Bowl, and now Maryland is 3.5. Michigan State now a 3-point favorite over Pittsburgh in the Peach Bowl after opening up a 4-point underdog. So this is not unusual for bowl games, and look for this to continue to happen in some of these other games moving forward.
All right, I will happily hoist my CLV trophy for the Army Missouri game. Hopefully you listeners got on that early. Johnny, thank you as always for coming on, giving us a peek behind the book. Stay safe out there and happy holidays.
Thank you much. Same to you guys.
All right, thanks as always to Johnny Avello for joining the show, getting an insight into the sports book. Let's take a look at the kind of week 15 into week 16 board. We're going to be giving out some Tuesday night plays. Unfortunately, this is one of those games I'm referring to Washington and the Eagles where the line is just moving. It feels like as we're sitting here talking. So this is getting a little bit too iffy now for me because who knows what the line's going to be by the time you listen to this. Because originally when we were talking about this game, Julian, both of these teams, both favorites in this game were -6.5. That has since moved. Yeah, perfect to tease. Getting them down a half a point, just need them to win. But they have since moved since about a half hour ago. Rams are now -7 favorites. Eagles are now all the way up to -8.5, getting a rather unappealing, not overly unappealing, but a much worse number, getting them down to -2.5 at this point. So, we like the half-point teaser. Obviously, it's not available anymore. So are you still down with the teaser getting the Rams at -1 and getting the Eagles at 2.5? Obviously, you're still getting them under a field goal, but not as appealing as just having them win outright.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, always listen to the podcast and follow Unreasonable Odd on Twitter. But follow Steve and I. Like, I put my best bets article out on Tuesday morning. It had the teaser at 6.5 both ways, getting them both down to picks essentially. And that's what I was able to lock this in at for one unit. So for time sensitive purposes, yeah, like make sure you're reading Steve and I's content. I don't hate, you probably want some Tuesday night football action. I'm not going to lie. So like, I don't hate it getting the Rams down to 1 and the Eagles down to 2.5. You're still keeping it under 3, which is a key number. Getting through 6, 7, a lot of key numbers there. So, and it moved this way for a reason, because Garrett Gilbert is probably going to be the quarterback for Washington, which isn't good for Washington here in a divisional road game. So I don't hate it. I would play it smaller. This would be, like a half unit entertainment play because you just have to bet Tuesday night football. Rather than, just needing each team to win outright, which is a little bit more comfortable.
I have no interest in either underdog in this game, even with how the lines have moved here. Like, the Rams should win easily against the Seahawks from what we've seen from the Seahawks over the past couple of weeks. I want nothing to do with the Washington football team with Gilbert at quarterback. If you want to do something fun, now it's obviously not up yet because we haven't got official confirmation on who the quarterback is. I will take the interceptions for Gilbert for whatever it is. If I had a guess, it's probably going to open with the over under at 1.5, not usually the usual half that you can get for something like Jalen Hurts. His interceptions is set at half. So if it's at 1.5, I still have no issue with taking that with Gilbert. You might be even.
We've seen like Jameis Winston laying like minus 215 for an interception. It could be there, but you're gonna have to, pay for it.
No, for sure. But if for someone like Gilbert, I would have to assume it's going to be at 1.5 instead of the normal half that you get for like that was Kirk Cousins last night. That's Carson Wentz. But just something, just a little bit crazy in there. If you're put it this way, you're doing same game parlays, you're absolutely putting in Gilbert at least one interception. That's your first leg in any same game parlay. Okay. That's that. Though I make that a demand.
What if they don't throw? What if they don't throw that much? What if they run more, run all these screens?
Who are they running with?
Gibson.
Yeah, against this team, Philly's pretty decent against the run. It's gonna be a disaster for Washington regardless.
Okay.
So just something to consider. That's all.
So my favorite bet as the board stands on the Tuesday night card, I wrote it up at 43.5. It's at 44.5, and that would be Jalen Hurts rushing yards. For 43.5, he'd gone over in 7 straight. He had 44 7 games ago, so it's 6 straight at 44.5. He's averaging like high 60s over his last 7 games in terms of rushing yards, and Washington ranks 6th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed to the quarterback position. He's coming back from an ankle injury, but he hasn't played since November 28th. So he should be pretty healthy. He should be pretty fresh. And this is a huge game. This is a must-win game for the Eagles. So effort-wise, there's the incentive to risk yourself and get out there and run. And the matchup dictates it. So I love Jalen Hurts over 44.5 rushing yards as my favorite NFL play for Tuesday to wrap up week 15.
Okay, moving over to week 16. We have multiple days of football as it stands right now. Thursday, Niners at Titans. Saturday, the 2 games, once again, Cleveland Browns at Packers. I still can't believe the Packers are only minus 7.5 right now, but that is what it is. Colts at Cardinals in a massive, massive game for both of them now, really. Looking at the, and I talked about this yesterday, looking at like the wins and losses, because the win-loss for the Lions that you took, Julian, was 3.5, correct? Over under 3.5, is that what it was?
Oh, no, I have under 5.
Under 5. Okay. I think maybe
the Lions need to win out for me to push. That would be something. I will be mad. Like they're 2-1 over the last couple. They were 9-1 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
To push that would be bad.
Yeah. Well,
I've been counting that money for a while.
The point that I was bringing up was that, one of the first games you'd like, oh, that's definitely a loss would have been the Cardinals, right? I was like, okay, that's an easy one for the Cardinals, but they now they make it a little bit interesting. And now this is a more important game for the Cardinals. The Cardinals were kind of just coasting into the playoffs. Now it's like, well, that's tightening up a little bit now with some of that. That was not a loss they could afford to have. And then, of course, the Colts, who are in playoff contention, but they definitely need this one too, because there's just a huge jumble of teams in that wild card spot. So big game for both of those. And then, of course, we have the Sunday slate. Where do you want to go on this one? There's a lot of different ways I think you could go here.
Yeah. So Thursday night football, I don't have much of a take. I don't love where the Titans are this season, but it looks like they're getting AJ Brown back. They're at home now getting 3.5. The 49ers are good, but this could be a bounce back spot for the Titans. Lean Titans, but not much of a definitive answer there. Don't like betting the Titans until they get Henry back, really. Right. But I'll be rooting for Tennessee there with all my futures. Christmas Day, the Packers are I'm not going to lay 7.5, but the Packers are a teaser or money line parlay piece for sure. I get that the Browns will have guys back. I get they'll be kind of desperate and hungry in this game, but now they're on a short week, Monday to Saturday, on the road at Lambeau, recovering from COVID. it is a little bit of a flat spot for Green Bay. They just won the division and clinched their playoff spot, but down goes Arizona, down goes Tampa. They can really separate and get that first round bye in the 1 seed if they keep rolling, and I think they will. So Green Bay to win is a piece that I'll incorporate somehow into my week 16 card for sure. Christmas Day night game, Colts and Cardinals. I got to play on this one. Cardinals money line. Give me the Cardinals. Like Johnny told us, this one was Arizona 4.
Yeah.
And moved a lot because Arizona loses to Detroit and the Colts beat the Pats. Sell high on the Colts, buy low on the Cardinals. That was like the Colts Super Bowl. They were amped up for that game. Weird start that just didn't allow the Patriots to fully get back into it. Now you're on the road against a really hungry team that's lost 2 in a row and had an embarrassing loss. Like I love that's probably my best bet for the week is Cardinals minus 125 money line on Saturday night, Christmas night. For this card, I really think the Cardinals bounce back and win this game. Seems like you agree.
Yeah, before you even get into Sunday, my best bet is in these few games here. We're going to tease the Titans up to 9.5. We're going to tease the Packers down to 1.5. That's your teaser right there. 9.5 points should be enough to cover against the 49ers at home. Getting healthier. 49ers will look great. Okay. I've been burned multiple times this season already by the 49ers. Sick and tired of it. I might get burned again here. But I think that with the way that these lines are set right now, getting 9.5 for the Titans at home, I'll take that. And then the Packers, obviously 7.5 isn't as an appealing of a number, but I would not be surprised if the Packers end up winning this game by multiple touchdowns. I just think the Packers have too much going for them where the Browns.
Well, it should almost certainly grow. Like this could be 8.5, 9.5.
Sure. Definitely. So getting it at 7.5, I'll be more than happy to get that down to 1.5. So before we even get to Sunday, that's my best bet right there. Are you gonna
bet the Cardinals?
I am not gonna bet the Cardinals, but I would agree with you. I just, I like the line is set very well because these are two, I would say, evenly matched teams coming into this week. You're obviously getting the Cardinals at their lowest point this season, and they're a much better team than we saw against the Lions. But this Colts team is just, you and I are probably going to be taking a bath on that to miss the playoffs bet. Because
should have hedged. I stared down the hedge for a while, and my NFL futures are looking strong enough that I was like, I can just take a loss without hedging it at all. And here we are. The Colts are like minus 500 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, because this is by far their toughest game after that. They're going to see like the Jets after this. I think the Raiders, they're basically a shoo-in unless something collapses here. But I like the Cardinals. That would be my lean. But I can't say with enough conviction that the Cardinals will win this game.
All right. 2 takeaways for the Sunday card. One doesn't really matter anymore, but I put it on Twitter. I grabbed the Falcons -4 right on the Goff news. We'll see what situation they're in, if I'm going to hedge a little on it or just let that ride. But without Goff, I don't know if they stand much of a chance, even in Atlanta against the Falcons. Doesn't feel good, but we'll see. Lions, by the way, need to win out for me to push my win total bet. Even if they heroically win these next couple games that are winnable, they end with the Packers. So unless the Packers have the 1 seed clinched,
which they could,
it's just not going to happen. And then the other one for Sunday, I'm going back to it. I got the Pats -130 money line. It's 145 now. So anything less than a field goal, I think is fine. The -2.5 hosting the Bills. It now becomes a bounce back spot for the Patriots after a loss. They got a long week to get into a divisional opponent that they recently prepared for. And like Belichick said after that game, and Mac Jones got a bad game out of the way. They had him throwing a lot. I think he'll be ready to pass the ball in this game, which the entire playbook is open because Buffalo saw no pass plays in the Monday night wind game in Buffalo. I think the Patriots just have the Bills number right now, and they'll get that one done.
My bet after this actually lands on Monday. Give me the underdog Dolphins all day against the Saints. I get it. They just what's that?
I knew you were going there.
I mean,
it's get even, it. By the way, the +3 is even money right now. You might be able to get a 3.5 on that.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it that they just shut out the Buccaneers, but like they shut out a Buccaneers team that lost Evans, Godwin, and Fournette in game.
It is Tua's going on the road to play a really good defense here.
Yep, no, that for sure. But I would also, say that the Dolphins also have a very good defense as well. And for as good as, the Saints did defensively, they only managed 3 field goals in this game. They did not score. So at what point am I going to say, okay, which is the better team here? It's the Dolphins. They should get Waddle back in this one. So they have their number one weapon. I just think the Dolphins are not the team to be underdogs in this one. So I will take 3. I would love 3.5. And it's definitely trending that way. As you mentioned, getting +3 right now is even money on the spread. So love the Dolphins this week as well. And I also have a lean on the Bengals at home against the Ravens, -2.5. I know the Ravens look great against the Packers, almost, could have won that game potentially if they just went to overtime, but this is the second time now they've gone for 2, failed. I thought the best chance for them to win was with Huntley, and it was. At what point, though, are they going to push Lamar Jackson into a game that he shouldn't be playing in? Might be this week against the Bengals because they need wins. They cannot afford any more losses. So if that means that they're pushing Jackson in when he's not ready against a team that is good defensively, now the Ravens pretty handily took care of the Bengals earlier, but I like this Bengals team right now. I've said this all season long. I'll take them at under a field goal -2.5.
All right, fair. There's our card. There's our leans for the end of the end of week 15 and week 16. We won't be coming back on Thursday, so you get it all now. Are you ready, Steve, for TIVUS?
I'm very ready. I'm very ready for this.
Okay. Samir's told us we have a surprise coming. I don't know when that is happening, so it will probably catch us off guard, but here we go. So we've been told to break this into 3 segments. Airing of grievances, feats of strength, and TIVUS miracle. Now we will naturally, both as very negative people, start with the airing of grievances. And also I asked for some Twitter participation this morning, and we got some, so we will go through some of those. Actually, let's start with that. Let's go through some of those. I'm scrolling through Twitter right now. And let's see, we'll give some of the people that reached out. Jeremy Tuller, fan of the podcast. He said the Indiana Pacers, so many quote unquote can't lose games that they lost, can't cover a small number since January 2020. And he has apparently lost a lot of Pacers bets. The Pacers have been very bad ATS this season. I can confirm that. Pete Driscoll, Florida State +9.5 versus Clemson, worst of the year, sickening. I don't know if you remember or saw this.
I do know this one.
This was as bad as it gets. This was Florida State with the ball down 3 against Clemson, and one of those defensive touchdowns to end the game, and Clemson wins by 10 and covers. That one was literally one of the worst from the year. So I was not on that, thankfully. But Pete Driscoll probably was. Let's see. I'm trying to get to any last ones before we get to one of our own guys. I don't know if there's any more in here. Okay, so I'll air a grievance as our own host. Know that his role as a host, Brendan Glasheen, chimed into our Twitter conversation. My grievance is Glash putting plays on Twitter because he's not an analyst.
Right.
He's a host.
Right.
And he did a bunch of it. I don't know if he's done it recently. He kind of shied away after the thrashing that he took. Even Adam Kaufman at one point in time put a I think I lean to this, and both of them were wrong naturally because he's a host and not an analyst. So there's one of my grievances, Steve. I'll give you the floor.
Well, here's the other thing too. Like, you can be almost anything.
Damn it.
Well, I'm a big fan of this program. I'm really thrilled to have a front row seat.
This is the surprise. What a letdown.
Now, see, all right, now let me go into my spiel, because on Twitter, you can pretend to be anything, okay? And Brendan Glass-Sheen has taken that, idea by the horns. He thinks he's a famous TikTok star. He absolutely sucks at TikTok. Okay, like there are 12-year-old kids who do better on TikTok than Glash does, and they don't even know how to use
That's
a
because
phone.
TikTok is for 12-year-old kids.
Yeah, the TikTok has some benefits for older people, and then he starts giving his plays on Twitter. And look, everybody wants to give plays on Twitter, okay? And that's the beauty of it. You can do what you want, and that's what it's for, right? But the reasoning that Glash has these, plays is absolute nonsense. I don't even know if he understands why he's on this play. I think he just looks at a number and goes, oh, that's an even or odd number. I'm going to take this play, and that's what I'm going to give out to the Twitter world. That's what he does. You have to have substance behind these plays and why you're giving them.
I would also recommend putting them out before the game starts.
That was the best. Okay, real quick backstory. Glash said he gave out his plays after the game's already kicked off. He goes, well, these are my plays. What good does that do to anybody? If you're trying to educate or give plays to people, you have to give them ahead of time. And Noah was like, well, I bet this on Thursday. Hey, it's Sunday afternoon. Here's my plays. What good does that do to anybody? Tell me right now, because now you're on the spot. Tell me right now what good that would have done anybody.
I've learned my lesson. It doesn't do any good. You're right.
It doesn't do any
You're
good.
right.
It doesn't do any good. It's completely pointless and stupid.
So, how's the show going so far? This is
Great. What are you doing? Great. What are you doing here? You're here. What are you doing?
Just wanted to drop by and wish you all a happy holiday season, and really appreciative of your content, what you guys do. I've learned so much from the both of you.
Good.
And I'm looking forward to more in 2022.
I will say, though,
please, Julian, air your grievances. You have me here.
If there's one,
I already aired them.
That's
If
it.
there's
We'll
one
go into some sports grievances soon.
If there's one positive thing that Glash has done, is that he's got on board with teasers. And teasers, that's the way to go in the NFL. That is absolutely the way to go. But
This time of year especially, right?
What's that?
This time of year especially, because the Sharps are a little more precise. They have a better read on things.
Do you know what a sharp is?
Yeah.
I would say the books are more precise. The books are putting out sharper lines. And
see, this is why I listen to you guys. See?
Right.
Okay.
I'd help you with the terminology, the wording. It's all just gibberish, but
yeah,
I can help you craft what you're trying to say and
you will not help me.
Speak it correctly.
Okay.
Glass, do you have anything else important to say?
Oh, is this you're trying to get rid of me now? Is that what's happening?
No,
now?
he can stay. You can stay.
All right. Well, he's here. We just finished the board. You might as well give out a pick or something, since that's what you do.
Oh, you really? Now, you sure you don't want me to wait till 7:30 tonight when kickoff already happens?
Probably. Once the games are over, tell me what you like the most.
Okay, I'm teasing the Rams, pick'em, and the football team plus 13.
Oh no! What? Why? Why?
Rams don't get to a pick. They get down to 1 now, and you can actually get football team up to 14 and a half. You got to see, you use the right numbers first of all.
Well, as you know, as the day moves along here, things change, and that's what I got it at. So I already put it out though an hour ago because I was following your code. Get it out when I played it.
Okay.
Edlow, which, by the way, Steve Buchanan,
our code
guy for a second here. This guy does the same thing. He goes back and goes, "Oh, well, I got this earlier in the day, so I hope you did too." Like, I mean, what good does that do?
No, but I tweet it out when I play it, and then like retweet the play.
Yeah.
Saying here's from earlier in the day. It's already on Twitter.
Julian, why do you apologize to people when you don't get something out? They don't deserve that. You do a great job as is.
Why do I apologize when I don't give something out?
Yeah, you're like, hey, sorry, I'm late with this today. Like, who cares? You're fine. You're doing a great job. You work hard.
Wow.
I know I am, but I like to keep all my fans happy, including you, Glash. One of my biggest fans.
You don't care about my happiness. And that's okay.
That's correct.
Will say though.
It's correct. I don't.
I will say though, you have like 4 jobs now. You need to start buying normal size food on top of everything. The chicken pictures that you put out there, the chicken pictures that you put out there. Samir, you're going to have to mark the time on this. Okay. The chicken pictures you put out there are the dumbest things I've ever seen on Twitter. Okay.
Swear on this podcast?
No, you can't, but that's why I just gave Samir the heads up. Okay. He's going to have to beep it and I apologize, but you need to hear this. Those are the dumbest things that you do on Twitter because nobody wants to see how bad your chicken looks. It's always with charcoal. They're the driest looking things I've ever seen. You have to stop putting those chicken things out there. It actually makes people angry because of how bad that food is that you're putting out there to the universe to look at and gawk at and make fun of you about it.
I get a laugh out of it. I think it's kind of fun.
Like, but like you are like, you're starting to get known out there. Like you do play-by-play stuff, you do ESPN stuff. Like, do you want your reputation to be someone who's a play-by-play, announcer or somebody that makes really crappy chicken?
Can do both.
You do both. You do both.
And I'm doing just fine.
That's great to hear. All right. I guess we should finish answering the airing of grievances for like sports. Steve, off the top of your head, any bad beat or team or player that you just lost a lot on that you want to throw out there?
I actually lost a lot of money betting against the Orioles. Like they didn't win a lot of games, but for whatever reason, I just picked them on like the worst nights. I lost multiple times, and it's quite remarkable when you think about how many games the Orioles actually won. But it's remarkable that I somehow would choose them on the nights that they would win. They were an absolute dagger for me during the MLB season. I don't know how or why, but they were just the absolute stone cold worst for me this year.
So for me, it'll be the Brooklyn Nets in the postseason. Those that follow know that I was pretty heavy on them to win the East, heavy on them to win it all. The talent was all there. And then Harden hurt, Kyrie hurt. Lose the Bucks series by Durant's pinky toe. Tough there. The Nets were a team that I really believed in, and I still believe if they were healthy, would have gotten it all done almost no problem. Glash, you lose all your bets, but is there one in particular that jumps out to you that you're angry about?
These guys.
No logos allowed, so we'll just have to cut that out.
Oh, sorry.
And
okay.
You give Samir more work. Samir's grievance is now you.
I don't lose bets. Come on.
Bringing more work.
I don't lose much.
More
I follow
work
your leads, but the Celtics are not fun to bet on.
Well, I will say real quick though, what you are going to lose is your time on this podcast. You can get off now.
Okay. You guys have a great show. I'm actually going to go because I've had enough. I'll tune in wherever this gets posted. Where does this get posted?
Just leave, please.
Okay. Hey,
Spotify, iTunes, Apple, YouTube, probably more places.
All right. Thank you for having me. Take care.
Go grill some chicken.
Yeah, we definitely did invite him. Feats of strength. What is your favorite?
That's not a, by the way, Samir, that's not a, I guess it is a surprise. Except you did say there was a surprise, not like a special gift or something. That was a negative, but I guess it was still a surprise.
It was a surprise because I was not expecting.
Go ahead, Steve.
Feats of strength. Your favorite team or player to bet on from 2021. Tell us why it's Roll Tide Alabama.
Well, but they weren't because they hurt me a couple of times, and that game that they lost was really annoying because I kept doubling down on it. So not a standard Alabama year, although they did make up for themselves some in the end. If they win it all, yes, I'm very thankful for Alabama. Let me see some of my favorites. Like the Suns in the playoffs were great until I did have them to win it all over Milwaukee, and they didn't get that done. But all the way through, the Suns just game by game were pretty awesome. Jorge Soler gets a seat at the table. plus 3,500 World Series MVP, just doing what I do there, breaking my plus 3,000 record with Steve Pierce. But you broke both of those records, so I know where you're going.
Yeah. I mean, that was going to be the Festivus Miracle, to be fair. It was going to be Robbie
then save it. Save it.
Feast of Strength, though, favorite team to bet on. The Red Sox were constantly underdogs the first couple months of the season. Because team,
Red Sox playoff run until they came undone was also another one for me. I backed them a ton in the postseason.
But the first couple months when they were just underdog after underdog, that was like my bankroll for almost the entire MLB season. Because constantly hammering those underdog lines, they kept winning as underdogs, and then the books finally adjusted and started making them, consistent favorites. But they were so good as underdogs in the beginning of the season. Like, they were underdogs a couple times against even the Orioles to begin the season. Like, it was absolutely insane. And, they're back to the Orioles again. But just some big underdog lines that they covered. I remember one specifically, it was in April against the Blue Jays. They were almost plus 200 underdogs, and they ended up winning out of that game 4-2. Like, they were a cash cow beginning of the season. And then Mariners as underdogs were another big play. They were one of the best underdog teams in the league, straight up in MLB this season. So that was another one between the Mariners and the Red Sox as underdogs. Cash cows, baby. That's what they were.
All right. You can just do your miracle now because I already alluded to it.
Yeah. I mean, how are you going to beat 80-1 odds for Robbie Ray? How are you going to beat it? I will say, though, there are a couple people out there that have shown me tickets getting him at 100-1. I'm not going to give them credit because they're not on the podcast, but there are people out there, tickets shown that they got him at 100-1 before the season even started. So, I mean, the cojones on them before even seeing anything. For somebody that was coming off one of the worst statistical seasons to date for a starting pitcher, to be like, you know what? I'm going to make that guy the Cy Young next year. And they get it.
That I will say that makes a big difference betting it mid-season at long odds than before the season. To think Robbie Ray would have a good season before actually seeing it and saying, okay, let's get it early is very impressive.
Very impressive.
I'll give two here. My favorite individual game, or the most miracle individual game, there was a game in Charlotte, Steph Curry's hometown, where the Warriors were the game was around close to a pick, I think. It was announced Steph Curry, personal reasons, wouldn't play right at tip, so it didn't affect the live line. So you could bet Charlotte at the price around Curry being in, but Curry was ruled out. So I hammered Charlotte with one of my biggest bets of the NBA season to win the game. Warriors were up all game. Warriors were up late. There was a Warriors, I think, up, I want to say 3 with the ball late. Oh God, I'm going to butcher this. There was a jump ball. And the Warriors were up 3. Out of the jump ball, there's a tie-up and Draymond Green gets called for a technical because he's arguing the call.
Oh.
Charlotte makes both the free throws, gets the ball. Terry Rozier hits the game winner at the buzzer. So it went from Golden State won the game, and Draymond lost his cool, and that won the bet for me. That was probably my most fortunate bet of the year. In terms of a team that was my miracle, that would be the Oregon State Beavers and their march through March Madness of underdogs every game, 8.5, 7.5 points, taking them with the points, taking them plus 300-400 money line, and just going to, I think it was the Elite 8, and then they were down like 20 something in their Elite 8 game, and as 6.5 point dogs came back to lose by 6 as like their, last dance, and still cover for us, although they didn't win the game. So the Oregon State Beavers were probably my most profitable game. Shout out to spread investor James Alberino. He comes on the podcast from time to time. He highlighted Oregon State for us before that tournament in like February, and they went on that run. So that's my miracle team.
Yeah, Robbie Ray won a lot of money for a lot of people. Had a lot of tickets come my way. It was a beautiful thing. You're all very welcome.
That is a beautiful thing. All right. Well, that probably does it for us. That's some plays, some odds are with Johnny Avello.
Weird appearance.
So we had some fun on the podcast. We had an unfortunate Glash appearance, and
at least it wasn't Adam Kaufman, though. I mean, that would be the stone worst.
I've had a plan for Adam Kaufman on this podcast for a couple of years that one day I will execute, I think.
That sounds like something good for 2022.
Yeah. So there's a New Year's resolution appropriately to end this all with, to bring Kaufman on the program and play a prank on him. He doesn't listen, so he won't hear this. All right. Anything else, Steve?
One show next week. Don't forget.
No. Yes. Okay. Tuesday show. That's it for Tuesday, December 21st. We'll be back on Tuesday, December 28th. Definitely talking bowl games as we get into some of the bigger bowl games of the season. Recapping NFL Week 16. Hopefully we're not still playing NFL Week 16. Looking at NFL Week 17. Follow us on Twitter at Unreasonable Odd. Follow Steve at Buchanan 24. Follow me at Julian Edlow. And we will talk to you guys next week.